Shumai guys, welcome back to the Life to the Full podcast, the podcast that helps you make the most of your time here on Earth. My name's Dav Morse, I'm your host, and it's very exciting to be back on the airwaves once again. Today we have a slightly different episode. Today is my first ever Q&A session. I've got some listener questions, and I'm excited to get into answering them. Quick reminder, if you want to ask a question of your own, get them answered on the podcast. You can get in touch with me mostly at Instagram, Life to the Full podcast. Gets me every time. Yes, you can get in touch, Life to the Full podcast on Instagram, DM me. Or you can even email lifetothefullpodcast davmorse@gmail.com. Make sure you got the Dav Morse in there, because otherwise it goes to somebody else who's already got lifetothefull@gmail.com. Shame, but there we go. So today's episode, I am doing some listener questions. I have got a couple of questions in. They're to do with investing. Should I keep paying into my stocks and shares ISA and pay off debt bit by bit, or should I dump it all in and pay off the debt straight away? And then we've got a question about doing Ironman triathlon. So good to get into that. Let's get started. The first question today is from James, and the question is this. We've had our stocks and shares ISA for coming up to 4 years now, and it's doing pretty well at around £25,000. We also have a personal loan, which has 25 months still to run, and £10,000 still left at 6.5% APR. Would it be better to take out money from the ISA to repay the loan early, or just keep paying the monthly loan and let the ISA continue to accumulate interest whilst still paying into it? First of all, James, congratulations. That is quite a momentous occasion. £25,000 in 4 years. That is great news. I am glad to hear that you are saving and investing, and it's in a stocks and shares ISA, which is much better than keeping your money in a cash ISA. So good on you for getting going with your investments, and good on you for getting up to £25,000. That's a lot of money, and it puts you ahead of a lot of people, particularly when it comes to how much they have saved for retirement or for anything that might come up. Now, it is a great question, and instead of answering it directly, I want to give you a framework for thinking about it. How is best to go about it? Now, the first way you could possibly think about this is numbers-based. Now, basically, that means, are you going to get a higher return on investment by keeping your money invested in the stocks and shares ISA whilst continue to pay off your debt little by little? Or are you going to get a better return on investment just by paying off the debt straight away? If it was a 3.5% loan, then I would just keep paying it off. I'd say, yeah, crack on, keep paying off little by little on the schedule that you're due to repay it, and invest into your ISA any extra money. You are much more likely to get higher than 3.5% yield in your ISA, particularly over a long time frame. So if you had a low interest loan, then I would say absolutely just crack on with investing and keep that loan just paying off quietly in the background. Conversely, if it was a 15% loan, then I'd say you are way better off to pay that off straight away, because you're making a guaranteed 15% return on investment by paying that down, compared to an average, roughly, over the last 100 years. I know a lot of people get fed up with saying that. Yes, over the last 100 years, the stock market's returned 10%. That might not be the case, but that's the best predictions that we've got just looking at the past for now. So you'd get a 10% return on investment in your ISA, and you'd be better off paying down that loan straight away. Now, the fact of the matter is, at 6.5%, you are very much in that hard to know, hard to justify mathematically zone. It could go one way or another. I don't have particularly strong feelings one way or another. You might get a slightly better return than 6.5%, especially on a short time horizon. There is an argument for paying it off. You might get slightly worse than 6.5, so it could go either way. The more interesting angle from my point of view is the psychological and behavioral angle. Firstly, I am not a big fan, as I think you know, I've mentioned it before, of taking money out of the ISA. It is not a great habit to get into. I don't like the idea of having investments which you think you can just dip in and out of. You can pay money in, you can take it out. I would rather see that money go in and you just don't think about it at all, and leave that grow, and then when you need it in retirement, that is when you start using that. When you're ready to start drawing down, you start taking out of your ISA then. Don't see it as a account where you kind of deposit a little bit, take it a little bit out, take it, put it in and out. Ideally, you just leave it alone. Also, another thing to consider is, what would it do to you psychologically to see your ISA account go from £25,000 of hard graft? You've saved hard, you've worked hard, you've paid into it for the last 4 years, you've got up to £25,000, and then seeing it just drop to £15,000 with nothing to show for it. That's up to you to consider. Secondly, ask yourself why you had the loan in the first place. Is it something you consider again? In which case, would paying it off encourage you to borrow again? Or does carrying that debt stop you from taking more debt out? If you have got into debt for a good reason, like you want to make some home improvements which you think you might get the value back of when you get your house valued or whatever it might be, then fair enough. If you've got into debt, you've had a loan to go on holiday or to buy clothes or to buy furniture you didn't really need, then that is more questionable. So ask yourself, why did you get the loan in the first place? Have I dealt with that from a psychological point of view? Have I addressed the need in my heart that made me get this loan in the first place? Am I still comfortable with going into debt, or am I thinking maybe getting out of debt and staying out of debt is a good place to be right now? And finally, you can ask yourself, how could I pay this off quicker if I really wanted to? So you leave the balance, you keep going and investing into your ISA, but you start maybe earning a little bit extra. Work overtime, pick up some extra shifts, cut something from the budget, pick up a side hustle, anything that you could do to start paying off the debt quicker and also hang on to your ISA. Hopefully that is a helpful framework to start you making decisions. Let me know if you've got any follow-up questions. I would love to get the dialogue going, continue it. The second question I've got to answer is from Dewi. The question is very simple. I've signed up for Ironman Wales. Have you got any tips for me? Just for the uninitiated, Ironman is a triathlon race. It is an extreme event. It is very, very long. It is a 2.4 mile swim, 112 miles on the bike, followed by a marathon. Just the small issue of running 26.2 miles after you've just spent 8 hours on the bike and an hour or plus in the sea swimming. A little bit of context for you here. Ironman Wales is where I became an Ironman back in 2019. It was a goal that I'd had since 2006 when I first got into triathlon. I started off in 2006 with very short races, sprint triathlons they called them. So this little swim was usually 400 to maybe 800 meters swim, and then a 20 to 25k on the bike, and then usually a 5k run at the end. And I trained for that and loved it. The first one, I felt absolutely ruined at the end of it. There's pictures of me after the first triathlon I ever did, just spread out over the track, just absolutely beat, absolutely exhausted. And the inspiration for that came from a guy who I met at university, and he said that he'd just done a triathlon, and I thought, that is so cool. I would love to do a triathlon. And I went on and on about it for years and years. And my wife and I got married in 2005, and she got fed up with me going on and on about this triathlon that I was supposedly going to do. She said, either stop going on about it or just book it already. And I said, okay, fine, I'll book it. And so we both booked to do our first triathlon, and we did our first triathlon together in 2006. And I trained as a triathlete for the best part of 13 years before that dream of becoming an Ironman finally came true. And it was such an incredible achievement crossing that line. I'm so proud of myself. It's the thing that I'm most proud of physically, apart from possibly getting my international cap for playing basketball for Wales over 35s. So let's get to Dewi's question. Have I got any tips for you? Dewi, I have got tips on completing your Ironman race. And anybody else who's out there thinking of getting into triathlon, just book one. You'll be fine. It'll be a great event. It'll be a great achievement. So just go for it. An Ironman race is very, very long and very, very difficult. 112 miles on the bike is no joke as it is. The 2.4 mile swim, that's very daunting for some people. And then a marathon running at the end of it. But the thing is, it is 80% mental and only 20% physical. So you need to be ready to push through when you reach the second lap of the bike and there's still 70 kilometers to go. You need to be psychologically ready to say to your brain, shut up, brain, I'm not giving up. Because your brain will tell you, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? This is ridiculous. Nobody runs a marathon after cycling for this long. What's the point? Why are you even doing this? You're hurting. Just get off the bike. Don't bother. So your brain will be telling you that, and you need to say to your brain, shut up, brain, I'm going to finish this. And having that mental resilience of, I'm going to finish this, whatever, is, I would say, my number one tip, the number one key to doing this. And so when you're on your bike and you've still got 70 kilometers to go, don't think about the marathon. Don't think about the 42 kilometers that you've still got to run when you get off the bike until you're actually off the bike. Once you've gotten off your bike, you've done your 112 miles and you're on the way, on the run route, that's when you can think, right, let's just get this one lap at a time. I know you're doing Ironman Wales, so that is a 4 lap, just over 10, I think it's 10.5 kilometers in the lap. So just get around the first lap, get around the second lap, just keep going. You also need to think about food, nutrition. Ironman took me over 14 hours to get it done. So you need to be fueling correctly. You need to be thinking, I'm not just eating for my normal day's work. I'm eating for a ridiculous amount of energy expended. So you need to make sure that you're eating properly. I personally wanted to make sure that I could eat enough sensible, natural food that I had mostly prepared myself. I didn't want to be, relying on gels and flapjacks and snacks that I was buying, particularly on the bike ride. So I ate sourdough, peanut butter, jam sandwiches. I ate roasted sweet potatoes. I ate flapjacks. I ate Dayton peanut bars that I made myself. And you can keep some of it on your bike. So I had my pockets stuffed with food. My special needs bag was stuffed with more food, so I could pick that up on the second lap of the bike. And I had a rule, and this was done mostly by experimenting, but I had a rule that I had to eat every 30 minutes. I had to get some calories in me every 30 minutes. That came from doing a practice run of the bike route, and I just got really angry and really miserable at some point, and I just realized, oh wait, I'm hungry. So yeah, just play around with how your body copes with the food, and make sure you can get to a eating schedule which you can stick to, and then keep the energy gels for the run. So I mostly ate energy gels on that marathon. And the final top tip is don't drink Red Bull when you're out on the run. I learned that the hard way. I'd forgotten that Red Bull is actually quite fizzy, and they were offering it out on the run course, and I thought, yeah, I'll have a little bit of Red Bull. No, error. Don't do that. Make sure you do a lot of cycling between now and the race. And there's one more tip, is don't get divorced over it. Funny story, I was in the changing room of the swimming pool one time, got chatting to a guy, said, oh yeah, I'm doing Ironman. And this guy said, oh yeah, a colleague of mine, he almost got divorced over his Ironman training. And I was like, oh right, really? Was he just training too much? Was he just not around supporting his wife? Not around because he was too busy training 25 hours a week? And this chap said, oh no, he just decided that he was going to go part-time at work so that he could train during the day and just not tell his wife. He didn't tell his wife that he'd gone part-time at work so he could train for Ironman. Don't do that, folks. Dewi, don't do that. Nobody else think of doing that either. Anything else, just ask. Final question. I think this is a bit of a joke question from Andrew. It's just gone Christmas. He said, why no festive bakes this year? Well, Andrew, I have done a festive bake. I just didn't post it on social media this year. Every year I have a tradition. Ever since my first daughter was 6 months old, we have made a Christmas pudding together. And I've got photos of every Christmas pudding being made since 2015, and the second week or the first weekend after October half term, I make a Christmas pudding. I've got my own recipe that I made up. I don't really like Christmas pudding usually, but this is the best Christmas pudding I've ever had. And lots of people that say I don't like Christmas pudding, but I do like yours. Well, there we go. That was a bit of fun today. I hope you enjoyed and learnt something about Ironman or about investing, paying off debt. Just a reminder, I would love to answer more questions. I'd love to do more of Q&A episodes. They're actually great fun to think about how to respond. So if you are interested in getting a message out to me, then send me a DM over on Instagram, Life to the Full Podcast. And until next time, peace out.